Be sure to subscribe to WXOU Sports on YouTube. WXOU Sports is the place to be for all things sports from your favorite college radio station. WXOU Sports features live audio broadcasts of all Oakland University home games, including men's and women's basketball. They also feature interviews with athletes and coaches, with highlights and more. Just go to YouTube and search WXOU Sports and hit subscribe. Now, back to the show. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the GioMoShow, your home for all Oakland University Golden Grizzlies sports. My name is GioMoShow. I am the host of the GioMoShow. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to help support the show as we are in the conference part of the season of basketball for both men's and women's, and we're into the swim and dive season as well. So a subscription would ensure that you don't miss a thing for your Golden Grizzlies coverage. You can also subscribe to the GioMoShow on all podcast platforms and follow us on social media. That is on Instagram. The GioMoShow has its own page that you can follow at the GioMoShow. And you can follow on Twitter as well at GioMoSherry WXOU. And you can use the hashtag the GioMoShow to get involved with the show and stay up to date on what's going on. For this week, we got a little bit less news than usual because it's finals and students are taking their final exams, so there's a lot less competition to cover. But we still got news for swim and dive, and we'll preview some of the games that men's and women's basketball will be playing since we don't have any new basketball games to talk about from this past week, so we'll preview the ones that are upcoming. And we'll get things started with swim and dive as we have another sweep of the Horizon League weekly awards given to men's and women's dive and men's and women's swim. We'll start things off with the Women's Diver of the Week, Junior Victoria Sanders, as she earned 7th place in the 1-meter dive and 3rd place in the 3-meter dive at the Zippy Invite. The Zippy Invite we covered a little bit last week as some of the star results here, but the Horizon League now taking those into consideration and handing out awards accordingly. So Victoria Sanders, the Women's Diver of the Week. Junior Liam James, Men's Diver of the Week, as he achieved a 4th place finish in the 1-meter dive and a 6th place in the 3-meter to put him as some of the best in the Horizon League. And then we go over to the swimming side. Christopher Palvedre earns his second Horizon League Swimmer of the Week for his performance in Greensboro, North Carolina for the Toyota US Open. It included a personal best in multiple events, the 4th place finish in the 100-yard breaststroke, and the 6th place finish in the 200-yard breaststroke. And if you guys remember from last week, that 200-yard breaststroke is now the new school record. And I'm not mentioning times and scores just because it becomes numbers soup, but we'll talk about it in terms of finishes and records. But a 6th place in the 200-yard breaststroke is a new school record. He was also placed 15th in the 200-yard IM. All that put together to get him the Horizon League Swimmer of the Week. That in Christopher Palvedre, a junior. Liam James, a junior. I had these listed. I felt like reading them. And the only senior in this category is senior Jordyn Ships, as she earns her 3rd Horizon League Swimmer of the Week honors, as she had a record-breaking performance also at the Zippy Invite. 1st place finish in the 200-yard butterfly with a personal best and a school record. And what we didn't cover last time when we were talking about Jordyn Ships' records, we mentioned how she was number 1 in 5 events. I think the 50, 100, and 200 butterfly, the 200 IM, and the 100 free. But for that record finish of the 200 butterfly, that's an NCAA B cut as well. So high honors and high placement for Jordyn Ships. So that 1st place finish in the 200 butterfly, and also a 3rd place finish in the 200 IM for another personal best and another NCAA B cut as well. So a little bit more news in regards to her performance, and also the 2nd place in the 100 butterfly with another personal best. So all that put together, you got 4 Oakland swimmers and divers in the Horizon League Weekly Awards. Another sweep for this season. Coming up, they won't be competing officially until the new year on the 17th. They'll be hosting Calvin College. And then January 18th, they'll be going to Wayne State. And at the end of the month, January 24th, they'll be hosting Cleveland State for their senior day. And then Horizon League Championships, February 19th, right around the corner coming up for the Golden Grizzlies swim and dive team. So that'll wrap it up for things in the pool in regards to the Zippy Invite and the Toyota US Open. Let's get now to basketball, and we'll start with the women's side. As we mentioned before, no new games played this week to cover in a review sense, but we got a couple of games that we could cover in a preview sense. But the biggest news that came out last week, you guys saw me cut in after editing, but Jeff Tungate retiring for medical purposes and leaving Deanna Richard to be the interim head coach as Oakland conducts their national search for their next head coach. So we'll have to see how Oakland is going to be able to bounce back and recover. They got, I believe, 10 or 11 new players that have now 2 head coaches in their same inaugural season with the Golden Grizzlies. So it's tough to predict how Oakland will perform with that in mind, but Oakland has done well in the times where Deanna Richard was the head coach, but of course the hasn't reached the results fans that have been looking for. So we'll see if this change is an improvement or if it is otherwise. But either way, with that news aside, their next game coming up will be Wednesday, December 18th. That is this Wednesday as of this recording. They'll be traveling to Robert Morris for their second game in Horizon League play. Robert Morris was predicted last place, 11th in the Horizon League at the preseason poll, but currently not in last place for the standings. They are 1-1 in conference, putting them at, let me count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, putting them at 7th place currently in the Horizon League, 1-1 in league, and 4-6 overall. Oakland in 5th place currently with their undefeated 1-0 conference record, but a 3-6 overall. So this game's going to be huge for whether Oakland is going to be 2-0 and shoot all the way towards the top of the league, or will they be 1-1 in that overall record, really pushing them down in the standings. So that's what's at stake in Moon Township against Robert Morris. But getting into some of the stats here to kind of see where Robert Morris places in the league statistically. As far as the offense goes, they're one of the poorest offenses in the league at 10th place, scoring just under 60 a game, 59.9 points per game. And the defense, though, they're some of the finest in the Horizon League, holding teams to just nearly that margin. 60.7 points per game allowed defensively puts them at second place in the league, just behind Youngstown State. As far as the margins go, they are at 4th place in margin, just at negative 0.8. I know these numbers may not paint the best picture for you, but we'll continue, or at least for margin. Essentially what that is mentioning is that the games are usually pretty close for Robert Morris. So despite their poor offense, their defense holding them together. But in terms of the rebounding, we'll go a little more towards the rebounding side. 4th place in the league with 36.8 rebounds per game, but offensive rebounds, they're down to 6 with only 10.4 offensive rebounds per game. And I want to mention this in terms of Oakland as well. Oakland, in terms of rebounding, also around the middle of the league with about 33 rebounds per game. But Oakland's offensive rebounds is top 4 in the league with rounding up 11 offensive rebounds per game, putting them at 4th in the league. Robert Morris, as we mentioned, is 6th in that category. But going back to the offensive side, Oakland 8th place in the league in offense, last place in margin, 9th place in defense. So Oakland's offense also having struggles this season as well. So you're going to have a couple of poorer offensive teams with a little bit more on the defensive leaning side. According to the numbers, it looks like Robert Morris is going to give Oakland a run for their money as well. So it's going to set up for a great early Horizon League matchup for Oakland in Moon Township against the Robert Morris Colonials. Looking down at their schedule after that one, Sunday, December 22nd, they'll be playing at Indiana University. And I'm not going to go too in-depth as to the non-conference Big Ten games because they usually don't go well for Oakland. And as far as the history goes in this matchup, it hasn't. Out of the 4 times Oakland has played since 2013, Oakland has yet to beat the Indiana Hoosiers. Sorry, I always get confused with my Midwest red and white colleges because I do some work with Nebraska, and they're the Huskers, and Indiana, they're the Hoosiers, and Oklahoma, they're the Sooners. They all kind of mixed together in the same pot in my brain. But for Indiana, Oakland has yet to beat them. Their last matchup was at home at the arena where Indiana gave Oakland a 59-32 loss. So we'll see if on the road is where Oakland will find their first win in their history against Indiana. But for your podcast host's perspective, it seems unlikely, especially given the coaching situation. So as it currently stands, Oakland is 5th place in the Horizon League, as mentioned, with an undefeated 1-0 record with their win against Wright State just before Tungate announced his retirement. And their upcoming games outside of Robert Morris and Indiana include Northern Kentucky on December 29th, just before the new year. And 2 home games will open up 2025 on the 3rd against Cleveland State and on the 5th against Purdue-Fort Wayne. And we'll have all your coverage here on the GioMoShow. Next week, we'll go over those games we previewed, and we'll take another look ahead as to the games to come. So that'll wrap it up for women's basketball. Let's now dive in to men's basketball. Now this one, I got a little bit more meat on the bone for this one because I will be on the call on WXOU at Little Caesars Arena this Tuesday, which is most likely today when you're watching. I will be on the play-by-play with WXOU with Justin Shepard as well for Oakland versus Michigan State. The yearly tradition, the near-yearly tradition between the Golden Grizzlies and the Spartans taking place in downtown Detroit at Little Caesars Arena. And we'll have the call for you for free on WXOU Sports. So be sure to subscribe to WXOU Sports on YouTube. Check us out on the TuneIn Radio app to take a listen to your boy call this matchup here. So again, just like the women, we don't have any games to review. Rather, we'll do our previews here because it's still those finals exams season as well. But when we go to the Michigan State side of things, now both teams, and through doing my notes, filling my bucket for play-by-play, as the industry puts it, the teams are on similar paths here. Now with a little bit of a different level, of course, Spartans in the Big Ten, Golden Grizzlies in the Horizon League, but showing similar situations where they're strong on defense and rebounding, but the three-point is morbid. It is poor. It is bad. Both Oakland and Michigan State are at the bottom of their respective leagues in three-point shooting. I believe the Spartans are at about 27.2%, Oakland at like 25.2% from beyond the arc. But other than that, Michigan State, number 21 in the country with an 8-2 record on the season, one of 3 teams in the Big Ten that are 2-0 in that very oversized, geographically challenged Big Ten conference that also includes the West Coast for some reason. I'm usually not a big fan of that. It's just I like my things organized in a more logical sense. But either way, they're one of 3 undefeated Big Ten teams. And as far as the matchup compares to last year, where Oakland did not defeat the Spartans, and they haven't done it in the past 22 matchups that they've had since 1988. But as comparing to that matchup, 1 of the 5 starters is returning for Michigan State, and 4 players in total will be returning from that matchup. But for Oakland, none of the starters in that game will be returning. Not Trey Townsend, Blake Lampman, Jack Golke, Rocket Watts, and the fifth name is eluding me here. Jack Golke, I believe I mentioned, but none of the 5 starters are returning. I don't know if Chris Conway started that one, but he's not here either. But either way, it's a lot of new faces in this matchup that'll be taking action on the floor in downtown Detroit at Little Caesars Arena. And, of course, we'll have all the great notes and storylines. Richardson being the son, or Jace Richardson on Michigan State being the son of Jason Richardson, a Michigan native, high school Mr. Basketball in the state of Michigan, McDonald's All-American, won the Spartans 2000 championship is a key piece. We'll have that story. We'll have the history in the matchup where we'll talk about the first game being played in the arena was between Oakland and Michigan State, and how the most popular that matchup was in 2015 in the Palace, where Michigan State was number 1. Oakland took them to overtime. If you guys are Oakland fans and you know all this history, and if you're not, and if you're new and you didn't know that, well, that's just a little bit of a teaser that you can find more information on the game broadcast, 7 p.m. tip-off on WXOU Sports. So just kind of want to paint the picture for you guys as to kind of the history of this matchup and kind of letting you know that, I've done my research when it comes to this game. So that one's going to be a lot of fun. That being played Tuesday at 7 p.m. at Little Caesars Arena. But 2 days later, they'll be going to Cleveland State to face the Vikings in their third Horizon League matchup of the season. In the preview for this game, another case where you got a strong defensive team but a poor offensive team. For Cleveland State, I believe they are second to last in the league in scoring. 69 points per game is what the Vikings produce, which is not good. Everybody else in the Horizon League is in the 70s points per game, except for Oakland. The Cleveland State is 10th in the league in scoring at 69. Oakland is 11th with 61 points per game, and that's a big gap. I'm not sure how big the gap is from 10 to 1, but from 10 to 11, yikes. So don't expect a whole lot of points in this game here, unfortunately. Cleveland State, one of the top defensive teams in the conference, and not one of the top defensive team in the league in terms of points allowed. They allow only 65 points per game, but Oakland is right behind them at second place, allowing 66 points per game. So you got bad offenses against good defenses on both sides. But Cleveland State, looking to the rebounding side, another cool note is that Cleveland State gives up the third most rebounds per game in the league, which feeds into the rebounding strength that Oakland has with both Mukeba, Baru, and even DQ and Woody getting boards as well. And speaking of Jason Woodrich, could this be the revenge game where Jason Woodrich lights it up against his old team of 4 years, a team that, or the school that he got his degree from? Will he have a great three-point shooting night against his alma mater? We'll have to see. I sure hope so. Oakland kind of needs it. So that's going to be a key storyline to watch for as Oakland plays Cleveland State Thursday at 7 p.m. at the Wolstein Center. As it currently stands in the Horizon League, Oakland at their 1-1 mark puts them at, let me count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th place in the league, 1-1 in conference, 3-5 overall, and Cleveland State 6th place with also a 1-1 conference record, but a 6-6 overall record. So there's a big chunk. Obviously, when it's early in the season, you're going to have this, but there's a chunk of 4 teams at the 1-1 spot, including Wright State and Detroit Mercy, along with Oakland and Cleveland State. So whoever gets to win this matchup gets to jump out of that group into the 2-1 world, where Purdue Fort Wayne lies at 4th place in the league, and above them at 3rd, Northern Kentucky and Youngstown State and Milwaukee with undefeated conference records, either 2-0 or 1-0. So whoever gets to win this matchup gets to get an early bump into that upper echelon of the league. Potentially top 4, top 5 at least will be crowned to the winner of this matchup, even though it's only the 3rd game of the season, of the conference season. But it should be an interesting matchup. We'll go over the result of that game, obviously, next time here on the GioMoShow, as well as the one against Michigan State. Beyond those 2 games, they got the Hawaii Airlines Diamond Head Classic coming up, where they're flying to Honolulu, Hawaii to face Loyola Chicago and whoever else lies in the pool in that tournament here. And you know what? Let me look that up. Charlotte, College of Charleston, obviously Hawaii, along with Murray State, Nebraska, Oregon State is the field for this tournament. This is where Oakland does their yearly kind of into nice weather competition / trip. So we'll see if Oakland's going to be able to kind of work out the kinks in paradise in the Hawaii Airlines Diamond Head Classic. I don't know why I always, as if I'm sponsored by Hawaiian Airlines. It's just that's what it's called. But either way, we'll be checking out those games. They'll be played on the 22nd, 23rd, and Christmas Day is the final day of the tournament. So we'll keep you guys up to date for that as we move through the season. So that'll wrap it up for men's basketball, as well as women's basketball, as well as men's and women's swim and dive. A bit of a shorter episode here of the GioMoShow. It's finals and, less news to cover. As much as these schools focus on their sports, they got to be students at some point, and this is really the most crucial moment of being a student is your final exams. So the break being given as a result of that. It's a little bit of a lighter news day for the JoMo Show, but we still got it all covered for you. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the JoMo Show for more weekly coverage of Golden Grizzlies sports. My name is Giovanni Mosheri, and we'll see you next week here on the JoMo Show.